As well, I would like to mention that the PowerPoint I will use on today's session also will be available on the YouTube channel, so you can download from there. So let's begin. Well, first of all, my name is Íñigo Cruz. I'm part of the YaSemosEuropeos team, and I will be your driver, your pilot, your machinist, as you prefer, captain, on today's webinar for the transport competition. So how are we going to do it? What's the plan, the charter, the road that we are going to take? So first of all, we will try to answer the first question that comes to your mind regarding the notice of competition, the competition itself, and everything. Then we will focus on the exams, the languages, and the evaluation system. It's always interesting, as this is the new model for EPSO. And then the application, the work experience, how to reflect that part. And final, last but not least, the tips and the MCQ. That also probably is raising most of your concerns. And that's why you're here. So sorry, it comes at the end, like the good dessert. In any case, first single rule of the house for today's webinar. Please, I know you have plenty of questions. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it. We try to answer many of them during the presentation. So that's why I will simply ask you to wait until the end of the presentation to go to your to raise your questions, because maybe if you're lucky, I already replied them today. Hopefully, some questions tend to be more or less the same in each competition. We try to reflect them, and also you can put it on the chat, and I will go through the chat answering all of them. So at the end of the webinar, I will dedicate as much time as possible to answer all of your questions. So hopefully, none will be unanswered at the end of the session. Okay, so let's go for these first questions, and let's take off and see some of the elements of today's presentation. Well, first of all, this is a new model. Yep, it's a new model, but the mistakes are still the same from the candidates, from what we have detected. So first of all, don't be afraid of having a bad or short CV. If you fulfill the criteria, that's it. I mean, if you've only been working in the transport sector for 5 years, they're asking for 6 minimum, so that's difficult. If you've been working on 6, well, it's a question of reflecting correctly in your experience, so you are there. So, and so on. So if you fulfill the criteria, go for it. Don't think, oh no, others will be better than me. Others will have a better CV. They've been working longer than me on transport, so I have nothing to do. Guys, you have a lot of doing here. We need experts in transport sector. The European Union needs experts in the transport sector, so you are most welcome. So don't be afraid of it. So don't think about too many candidates. Experience tells us that at the end, the number of candidates who really prepare themselves well, who really work hard, but to a certain extent, because you need few hours per week, you don't need a lot of hours per day, are not so many, and at the end, those are the ones that are who get it. If you are constant, if you really go little by little, you will get until the end. But if you try to rush in the last week, in the last few hours, no way. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're the best expert ever. This needs some preparation, and it's nothing to do with the number of candidates. At the end, it depends more on how you do the things right or wrong, rather than the others. By the way, one of my favorites, the third is my favorite, not reading the notice of competition. Believe it or not, the notice of competition is a good booklet because it contains a lot of information. Yes, a lot of information. So, but wait, is EPSO going to talk to me? Is EPSO going to send me something? But it's in the next one. But wait, how can I complain to EPSO because I have disagreed with something that has happened to me? Well, it's in the next one as well. But wait, how are they going to take into account my work experience? It's also in the next one of the notice of competition. But wait, how many spots are here for this competition? It's in the notice, in the core of the notice. But wait, I have a degree by UK from the year 2010. Is that valid? That's in Annex 2 or 3. So I think it's Annex 3 of the notice of competition. Everything is there. Almost everything is there. So please, people, read the notice of competition, because those are the rules of the game. EPSO is bound by the notice of competition. It's a legal document. It's been published in the official journal. It's a legal document, so it's like a European regulation for your competition. So read it in order to claim for your rights. As simple as that. And then last but not least, laziness, procrastination. Yes, I will do it tomorrow. Nah, not today, tomorrow. No, tomorrow. No, tomorrow is it. And then tomorrow is the exam. Oh my goodness, I haven't done anything. Oh, I haven't submitted my application and tomorrow is the closing day. For God's sake, don't do that. I mean, if you can do it this week or next week. I mean, I'm not saying just do it and submit your application. No, give it some time. Give some reading, checking, fine. But don't leave it for the very last day to do everything. That will be a big, huge mistake. So now moving to the competition itself. By the way, you will see that we will have plenty of captions or captures from the notice of competition. As I told you, everything's there. So we prefer to just copy from it, I mean, just to put it in front of you. So where it is, rather than anything else. I mean, we could put it in fancy colors with a lot of pictures, but that will be distracting. So this is the notice, and this is it. The interesting part here, where will it work? Is the fact that in principle it's announced by EPSO in their webpage that DigiMove is the main recruiter, but it's not included in the notice of competition. So be careful with that, because usually in the notice they tend to mention the DGs. So meaning that you could be hired, well, you could get a job offer from an agency, from another DG, and in a transport, so DG.com, they got some grow, and well, an agency, you know the agencies. So in total, 8 spaces or 8 successful candidates that I really hope all of you will be there. According to the numbers that we got, you are less than 80, so that's fine. I'm not promising nothing cannot be true. So that's why we say DigiMove and friends as a main target for your work. But careful, because now with the new model, something that they are insisting a lot is that the reserve list gives you a right to be a candidate, not to get a position. So could be the case that I get into the reserve list and I don't get a position. Yes, it's a possibility. Based on our experience and considering how specialized is this competition, is unlikely, but not impossible. So please don't sleep over. If you are in the reserve list, move and contact human resources, contact people in the commission to say, I am available, I'm an expert in transport. Please think of me when you want to hire someone. So moving activity, being proactive is the key to get out of the reserve list and to become an officer. That advice always works. Okay, and we don't know for how long the list will be open. I mean, in principle, it's 1.5 years when it's published, and usually they renew it. But this is the new model, so we need to stay alert, because maybe they don't follow the traditions that they used to follow in the past. This is a warning shot. Don't be scared. Okay, but then the question is, am I eligible? What do we need? The interesting part here is that they have included people with very different profiles. I mean, if you hear about transport, you say engineering, science, technique, something like that. But then you see that people with a degree in law and economics or political science are also most welcome, because there's all the part of the transport policy that affects that is more suitable for certain type of backgrounds. That's why they've been included. Okay, so if you're a lucky person who has this kind of experience, or you have this degree, to be precise, you have this degree, then the combination goes as follows. I mean, if it's a 3 years degree, imagine that you short degree on law, then of 3 years, then you will need 7 years of working experience. If it's a 4 years degree, 6 years experience. I see that there are many Spaniards among today's audience, so remember, licenciado, it's 5 years time, the old title, so meaning that it's 5 years of your degree plus the 6 years of working experience. But if it's only a degree, a modern degree, depends if it's 3-4 years. Usually in Spain, for instance, it's 4 years, but in other countries it could be different. So anyone, check your own situation. Check Annex 3 with the list of degrees and academic titles, how they go, because all the member states are indicated. Also UK is indicated, because before 31st of December 2020, the titles obtained in the UK are valid. They don't need being recertified in an European member state. So that's an advantage. And of course, if you, sorry, but I have an interpreter and a translator, specialized in transport, but my degree is in interpretation. Fine, you will need 9 years of working experience. Unfortunately, it's like that. So the interesting thing is that you see on your right of the screen the areas, the following areas where they are looking for people. So transport safety, road mobility, logistics, transport engineering, transport technical operation interoperability, plenty of areas, not a big deal. So, and the activities, the potential activities, developing policy and legislation, that will go more for those of you who have been working on a public institute or on a public institution. So that's it, but also implementing monitoring evaluation existing policies and legislation, enforcement of EU and national transport rules. That could be also as a public servant of a national authority or at the European level, if you're not an officer. But yeah, probably those are the ideal profiles considering this activity. But then coordination, negotiation, and representing, including an international level. I'm thinking about someone who has been working on a business department for a private company of transport. Well, that could be it. I mean, you have been negotiating, you've been at the international level. So you've been representing your company. For instance, not only public servants, of course, people working in the public sector, but as well that part. Or carrying out political, policy, legal, or scientific analysis, providing advice, liaising with the experts committee. I mean, again, the wording looks more public activities, but I think that in a private company, you've been doing some coordination between departments, doing some research, doing some work on transport. That could be also a possibility. So those who are coming from the private sector, don't be afraid. There's chances for you. Operational activities in a public or private organization, this is clear. So no need. Managing budgetary financial aspects and managing projects. And again, this one serves both sides of the equation, public and private. I know, so everybody has a place here if that everybody got experience in the transport sector. That's all the only requirement. I'm counting all of you have it. So, but in case you still have doubts, in case you still are wondering, but I'm not sure, I have my doubts, I don't trust so much that previous slide, I want something else. EPSO puts in their webpage this easy check for your eligibility, this tool where you can clarify if you are eligible or not. This is an automatic tool and it gives you some guidance. It's not official and you can trust to a certain extent, to orientation, but don't give it for granted, for good and for the bad. And you may say in the tool that you are not, but you still try and you get it through. On the contrary, you think that through the tool you completely fulfill the criteria and suddenly EPSO says no. So be careful because this is orientative. How orientative? Well, you see, you go to the tool, you click on the easy link, and then you go to a menu, you fill in it. The funny thing is that if you follow the instructions, just because sometimes they say, please click the one that applies, don't click the others. So once you have finalized it, you get a report of your suitability or your profile, how good it is for the competition, something like this. And the funny thing is that you get an 11 of 23 points. And they tell you, no, if you got 11 or higher, you can be part of this competition. But we were checking in the fact that you get an 11 if you just follow word by word the instructions of the survey. Because they say, if you got 6 years of experience, don't click on the 7 or on the 9. Or so on the exclusive conditions that subtract points. That's why you get an 11. So it's a bit misleading. So don't be afraid about the marking. Just give you an overview, another way of representing the criteria that you need to fulfill for this competition. That's it. Just a piece of advice in case you go through it and you want to check yourself. And I invite you to do so. I mean, it's always interesting. Okay, that's about the eligibility. But what about the test on the languages? Now we are entering into uncharted waters because this your notice of competition includes some things that are a bit new compared to previous competitions, at least with the recent ones. So for sure you will need 2 languages, minimum C1 and B2. They don't say which language is which, so it could be C1 in English and B2 in Hungarian, or it could be C1 in Spanish and B2 in French. Just saying. They are official languages, they are perfectly fine. You see how there goes. The application could be in any of the 24 official languages. I'll talk about that a bit later in the próximo slides, in the next slides. On the testing, the CBT, reasoning test, computer-based test, verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, and abstract reasoning. official EU language other than English? How so? You will see. Well, field-related MCQ test, the one, the test of 30 questions about transport. That will be in English, English, or English. There's no other option. That's why the reasoning test cannot be in English. There are two different languages. It's the way they have to test your knowledge of languages. And then the case study that can be officially in any language of 24 official languages of the European Union. That's perfectly fine. So and we will see. You can I do the reasoning test in Spanish and then the field related and the case study both in English? Yes, you can. Can I do it in 3 different languages? Yes, you can as well. I mean, I could do the reasoning test in Spanish, the field related in English, and the case study in Portuguese. Fine, you can do it. Nobody stopped you on doing so. But the interesting part comes here when you see some other paragraphs of the notice of competition how they insist on the English part. And they invite you to fill in your application in English and also to do the case study in English to facilitate the correction of the exam and to make it the whole process faster. You are in your right to do it in any language you want. But it's true that in institutions, the single language that is granted for knowledge is English, not any other. Yeah, I mean, as I said before, there are a lot of Spaniards to deal with us. So Spanish, it's quite popular. So it's easy to find people who can correct that language, who can review applications in that language. But with all due respect for small countries in size or population, Muslim populations, let's say Baltic countries, so it's more difficult to find experts, people who are participating as evaluators in this competition who have a proficient knowledge of Lithuanian, Estonian, so on. This is pure question of demographics and number of speakers. That it is. So in general, the notice really focus on points you in the direction of using English as much as possible. If you are not confident enough and you feel that you could really see your opportunities dismissed because of the use of English, don't do it. But if you are very fluent in English, you are confident, think about that option. It could be a good one based on all the input gathered in the notice on reference to English. If you don't believe me, you are perfectly in your right, just check on the notice. Yes, I invite you to go there and see how many times they refer to the English language. Okay, but now a little bit more about the test and the language. So I was mentioning the computer-based test, the CBT for France. It's called the verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning. In your case, not a difficult one. You got the typical standard 20 questions for verbal, 10 for numerical, 10 for abstract. You need 10 out of 20 for the verbal and 10 out of 20 of the combined between numerical and abstract. So don't be afraid about the numerical. I know most of you are engineers, so you are not afraid about the numerical, but maybe you are afraid about the interface. Remember that you will do this exam online from home or from wherever you want, but on your computer, no pen and paper, no possibility of using any other tools than those on the screen. That generates or creates more difficulties for the candidates. That's why it's a bit challenges. So the way they are assessing your computer-based test should give you some confidence in the sense that you don't need much. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get 10 out of 20 on verbal or 20 out of 20. You are in the same situation, all the candidates. Nobody's scoring your CVT beyond having more points than the threshold or below the threshold. 10 out of 20. That's it. So feel reassured. The only problem here is that if you don't pass the CVT, they won't check your multiple choice or your case study. You need to pass the 3 tests in order to be corrected or to be reviewed in the 3 tests. Remember that if you fail the CVT or then later you fail the multiple choice, then they won't review your case study. And because they go by this order, CVT first, then the multiple choice, and then the case study. If you fail the case study, then you are eliminated of the competition, but at least you will get the marks of the other 2 previous tests. Yeah, multiple choice, the multiple choice, beautiful, great. So on this one, it will be about transport. I will give you some tips at the end on what to study, what areas to reinforce. The question will be typical test questions in the sense that what is the name of the connected transport networks that go through the whole European Union, trans-European networks, or cross-European networks, or big European networks, or the networks? You tell me. So these kind of questions, you will need 20 out of 30 to pass, but I would suggest you to get as many points as possible. Why? Because you will be ranked based on the results of this test. And those who rank above will get their case study review first. And if you pass the case study, because you need 5 out of 10, nothing else, you will get your document check, and then you will get into the reserve list. So the highest you mark in the field-related MCQ test, the better. That's how it works. It's possible to get 30 out of 30. Yeah, it's a possibility. It's not easy. And above all, be afraid of the easy questions, because these questions are the ones that you cannot afford to fail. But the difficult ones, I mean, it will be difficult for everyone. So sometimes you will get them right, sometimes you won't, but the others will be the same situation. With the easy ones, is the one that if you fail one, you may be doomed. Because if it's an easy, others won't fail in numbers. That's why you need to pay a lot of attention and prepare yourselves for this test. And about the case study, I'm coming back to it because you saw that you need 5 out of 10, and probably you're wondering, yes, but the case study, this is a transport competition. So the case study will be about transport. I'm sure, I'm certain of it, because I'm a transport expert. I know the case study will be about transport. No. I mean, it's never been the case so far, and thanks God, this time they put it in the notice of competition. The case study is not related to the transport field. It's quite clear. It's about competencies. It's about writing. It's about solving fictitious situations that could be about agriculture, could be about electronics, could be about banking entities, could be about anything. It's a fictitious situation. Do you want to know more about this potential fictitious situation? Just go to the other competitions already in motion, in the intellectual property, economics, or migration and crisis. They got the booklets published for the case study, so check them and see that they are not related at all with the fields of expertise. So please, if you are not working in the European institutions and you're listening to this, don't start studying a lot of the European institutions just for the case study. No. For the multiple choice, you will need to study. But for the case study, no. For the case study, you will need to practice, because it's a 45-minute exam. That's challenging, because you get the booklet 2 weeks before to study it, to prepare it, and then you got 45 minutes just to answer the question they give you. As far as we've been told by all our candidates and students, you don't need to run, you need to fly. So maybe a high-speed train is not enough, and you need to take off an airplane to fill in the 45 minutes exam. So, and the only way to do it is through practice. You cannot pilot an airplane without practicing it. This is not Flight Simulator. I'm sorry. Okay, now we move on. Now let's navigate through the application itself. Let's see some details, especially for those of you who are new on this area of expertise, European competitions, and you need to navigate through it. So welcome to the typical interface for the European applications. They already will be clear that you are entitled to do it in any language, but they will remind you, please, if you do it in English, much better for us, because we can just read it directly. We don't need to ask for translation or to use an automatic translation. The same way that they advise you to use that tool. This is the tool from the Commission. This is not Google Translate. So it's much better, this tool, for instance, for translation, so you can use it. My advice is, if it's okay for you, do it better in English than in any other language, because you know what you're writing, you know the information, and you know how to put it. If it depends on a translation, sometimes the translations are not as accurate as we would like. They are not including all the elements that they should. So it's better to translate it ourselves than it's done by others. So it's a good piece of advice, but of course, your right is to do it in any official language. But still, think about it. So that's for your application and that message. Well, interesting. When you are opening your application and so on, you see the languages for the test. You see what I told you, that you can select 3 languages. It's possible. They mentioned that you need minimum 2 languages. but they don't exclude a third language. So you could do the reasoning test in Spanish, the language in the field-related MCQ test English. When you scroll down the menu, it's English or English. There's no other option, so there's no way. And language of the case study, 24 official languages. To avoid any mistake, to avoid any problems, if you scroll down the language for the reasoning test, it will appear all the languages, 23, except English. So there's no possibility that by mistake you put English, 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 or something like that. No, there's no way that this is going to happen. In the past, maybe, because the interface was not so elaborated. But now I think that they have improved it, and these kind of mistakes are no longer possible. In any case, before submitting any application, you check it twice at least before submitting it to avoid mistakes. Because once you have submitted your application formally, you cannot redraft anything. You cannot change anything. It's impossible. It will be a pity that a silly mistake costs us our presence in the competition. So regarding the languages, remember, when you are filling in the languages, you need to put whatever languages that you're using for your exam. Also, in the levels, you say, in this case, English and Italian. Let's say English B2, 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 Italian C1, 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 C1. Those are the minimum. Imagine that I put Italian B2 for ability to listen. Then the system could automatically eliminate me because I don't have two languages with the level enough mark. So remember just to pay attention to this. I think that I didn't check it last time, but I think that now already also triggers a message that you don't fill in the criteria with the languages. So still many warnings, but better not to trust only on the system, better to trust on ourselves and check all these elements. Attention to detail is always useful when we are filling in an application for EPSO. Oh, yeah. And this is one of my favorites, the motivation part, the motivation and strength. On this part, candidates can fill these questions. And of course, these are questions that are not evaluated. You are not getting marks or any scoring for them, but they are all interesting, and give them some time to fill in because it's interesting to see yourself there, to think about the logic of the questions, answer the questions, please. Don't write whatever you want, just check the question and the details associated and answer them, because it will give you always a good understanding of what they're expecting, how the institutions work, what they want, and also what's your position, how you see it. So it works well for both, especially the first time that you fill in these kind of questions. And also it may be read by the evaluation board later or by the entities who are selecting you or who are going through the contracting process or employment process. They can read it. So it's always nice to they can have a nice impression of us, right, in the application form. So yeah, about the transparent experience, the important thing. So here it's important that you explain things. I mean, you need to make very clear, because sometimes you go, oh, no, my title was the following. I was transport technician. Okay, but what did you do? I was a transport technician. Yes, but tell me, what did you do? No, I was translating documents. Well, maybe that's the most valuable experience. I was a transport technician. Well, you know, I was designing this transport solution for airplanes, including the European legislation for the new technologies in telecommunication, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now you're talking now, but explain it to me, because if you just say transport technician, it's meaningless. So it's important that we explain things. It's important that using these elements as reference, the duties and the areas of experience extracted from the notice of competition will reflect that in the occupation and the nature of the duties. It's important that you explain all these elements. And also it's important that you have documents that verify those experiences. Because if you say, I'm not a transport technician, and then you present as an evidence a contract where it's saying that you were, I don't know, a lawyer linguist, say, wait, I mean, there's no transfer reference in your contract here, you're lawyer linguist. How do I know that this is a valid document? How do I know that your experience is real and you're not inventing it? So you also be sure that you got some documents to provide evidence of your work experience. As well as a support of this, don't forget to check the Annex 1.2.21e, where they say about how they calculate the experience. Imagine that you've been working half-time as a transport expert and half-time as an economist, let's say. So you explain your task, and then you say, okay, 50% of the tasks are relevant. Transport technician, the part of the economist, is not relevant for us. I'm inventing. I just giving a reference. So in the notice is marked that between the 25 and 50% of tasks are relevant, the given period of professional experience will be counted as a rate of 50. Imagine that you've been performing this task for 6 years, so it will be counted as 3 years of working experience. Oh, look, I've been working as a transport expert, doing all these tasks, but just playing 4 or 5 tasks, and then the last one or the last 2 ones are not clearly in relation with transport, but with other areas, human resources. So they may count it as a 75% of the experience, so they will count as 75% of the time. But if it's above 75, they say, oh, well, it's 80% of your time was employed in transport, so it's 100%. It will be the 6 years that we mentioned before. It's in the notice. We are not inventing anything. So just check there, all these elements, all this information, or how they are going to take it into account. The good thing is that now they are including this part. In the past, they didn't. So you're lucky. I mean, you got more information in your hands. Lucky you. Okay, and last but not least in the application, yes, and you will have to say yes to all these elements. You are a citizen of the European Union, you have followed your military service. Guys, remember that not all the countries have skipped the obligation of the military service. Some of them still have it. So you are supposed to fulfill this before joining the institutions. You cannot tell to your boss, I need to live for 1 year, 2 years, I need to go to the army. No way. So, and the other conditions. You say yes, and then you confirm eligibility and submit. To confirm eligibility and submit, you will need to introduce your password or your keyword again. So meaning that no accidents. No, I click by mistake and I submit. No way. You introduce your password again. So, yes, be precise. And remember, you take your application seriously. You are as good as your explanation is, and you get your experience validated. That's the formula. Simple. Yes, but take some time and some attention, so don't miss it. Last few tips on this. So please, when you are explaining your experience, your motivation, or any part of your inscription, or for any application to the institutions, don't write long sentences. In English, our standards between 15-20 words, no more than that, maximum than 25. Especially for Latin languages, where we really like to have subjunctives, subordinate sentences, not subjunctives. Subordinate sentences, and this, and I put a comma and I add this, and I put another comma and I add this, then people get lost. Keep it short and simple. For a CV, for explanation of your motivation, for whatever you do, keep it simple. One idea, input percentage, don't try to do a collage of elements in one single short sentence. That's too much. Bullet points for lists. You need to, or you want to list your activities, your experience, well, put some bullets. It's always nice. Instead of a big block of text like this. Imagine that someone is reading your application or your input after reading 20 others before. That's heavy. That's not easy. Don't bury key information on a key message in the middle of sentence. It will lost. In your application now, in the new model, is not so easy that this happen, but still, if you really need to put a paragraph, long paragraph, meaning more than 4 or 5 lines, and you have important ideas to cover on that paragraph, put them at the beginning or at the end, but never in the middle, because they get blocked, hidden by the rest. And use the same vocabulary as they use in the notice. So in case of that, use the wording that you see in the notice. In case, whether it's, remember that the notice is available in the 24 official languages. So you can check on the other Italian, Spanish, French versions to see what are the words that they're using. So be sure that you are using the same vocabulary. Okay, that's for the application. But now let's take the train speed up to the final part regarding the timeline of the competition, the test, and the suggestion for the multiple choice on what to study. So timeline indicative. EPSO hasn't published the formal timeline for your competition yet. So this is based on what we know, based on our impressions. So take it with a pinch of salt, but it's orientative, so you don't get overconfident. The application is until the 7th of November, right? So we expect that your exam will be more or less at the end of November, beginning of December. Just put yourself in the situation end of November, so you don't get overconfident and you get caught by surprise and you still need to study. The checks on eligibility, it will be done with the correction of your exam and everything during December, February. In the middle is Christmas, so don't expect it will rush on those weeks. Then the reserve list for the interviews, open for the interviews to hiring you, will be probably published in March. The idea is that everything lasts 6 months, more or less, between the publication and the delivery. That's the commitment for an episode. So we will see. Hopefully they will. You are 18 in your competition, so meaning that probably will go fast. Then just once you're in the reserve list, you can be interviewed, you can be up for some position from the institutions, and also the institutions could organize any other test or evaluation system for the candidates in the reserve list. That's a possibility, so don't forget. I don't think that all the exams are done. In any case, also check the next one where they explain a bit more about this. Yeah, so recapitulation on this part, CBT, you need to pass 10 out of 20 on verbal, 10 out of 20 when you add in numerical and abstract. The MCQ, you will do it after the very same day. All the tests are done in the same day. I don't know if I indicated it clearly, but so it will be a long morning and long afternoon, what you will have ahead of you. The MCQ test is closest to 30 and above 20. So the more points you get, the better. And the case study, 5 out of 10 to pass it. Once all the exams are done, they will check the results on the CBT and the multiple choice, and you have passed both. They will rank you by order of the MCQ results, and up to 1.5 times the number of candidates needed, meaning around they will select the highest mark of 120 of you with the highest mark on the multiple choice. They will verify their experience and their CV in order to be introduced in the list. Okay, and in principle also with the case study. So that's why you need to be among those 120 first candidates by ranking in order to be selected in this competition. This is important. Remember, the case study can be done in any official language, but the notice on how they describe it, they are suggesting that they will prefer you to take it in English to facilitate the correction. Okay, up to you. Remember, this about communication, and remember also that in the notice they indicate they are not supposed to take into account typos or any other writing mistake, provided it doesn't hinder or interrupt the communication. Meaning that if you write European Commission with K, meaning in English is with C, they wouldn't care because still they understand this is the European Commission. So that's it. I mean, that's quite clear. And this the impression that we got from the notice of you choose yourselves in which language you want to do the case study. You can choose between the 24 of them, but still they point in the direction of English. Yep, that's and now you're in the reserve list. That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's and MCQ. That's why. That's probably why most of you are here today. MCQ, what to study, right? Well, let's go back to the notice again. Annex 2, typical duties, developing policy and legislation, implementing monitoring evaluation system policies, fields of transport, including enforcement of few transport rules, international level, field of transport, always in field of transport, scientific analysis and provide advice in the field of transport, technical analysis into on policy, legal and operational measure, monitoring financial aspect and managing projects in the field of transport. So it's clear that if it's not transport related, it's not within the remit of this competition, but if it's transport related, it's within the remit of the of this competition. Okay, so what about it? What, how we can do it? Wait, let me 1 second, please. I'm having some technical. Oh yeah. So running out of battery. And then, well, just on the slide, we just tried. There are some hyperlinks embedded on the slide, so don't worry. Once you get a copy, you will have the access. But I mean, they're obvious. Digimove web page. If you didn't know this web page, if you haven't been there, now you know it. That's the one that you really need to know. But I'm serious. You really need to know everything is there. I mean, because there is a lot of information about transport policy. The problem is that it's not the best web page ever in design, being honest, although it's been improved in the last years. It was much worse a few years ago, so you're lucky now. Go there. You need to become experts in the aviation part, maritime, road, and rail. inline navigation as well. It's I included in maritime. So go there. Also, there are other webs in the European Union that talk about transport, especially in the European Commission. Go there as well. Council probably don't have much information. European Parliament, they have also some information about transport. So check it. It's important, guys. Everything can be there. Tentative regulation that is transversal to all the transport means, yes, as well. The agencies that are related to transport, railway, maritime, aviation, and SINEA for the project management, those you need to know. You need to know what they do, how they do it, where they are, goals, principles. Yes, you need to have it. And this Eurostat. Yes, sometimes EPSO has decided that it's a very good idea. I won't comment on that. To put questions that purely coming from a trivial, the one that you have with your friends drinking beer in a pub, meaning how many kilometers of high-speed lines are in the European Union? How many? I don't remember. That could be a question of your exam. So that's why we advise to check on Eurostat and on the figures, official figures that you can find in European sites of transport, or how many trucks are counted in the European Union. So yes, as useful as that can be, could be a question. So it's important that you check all these elements, but it's also very important that you create your own notes, your own mind maps with all this knowledge. Because the best interface that we have found so far between the knowledge and your head is the pen and pencil, or pen and paper, sorry. That's the best thing. So go through this web, take notes, create your mind maps, all your data list, acronym list as well, because in transport there are plenty of acronyms. So all these elements are needed. And once you get them, you are ready for the exam. And you have no time to waste. Last tip of advice, practice with the whole exam, especially when the exam is approaching, in the sense that you will need to do an exam that lasts minimum 3 hours, 20 minutes minimum. So it's a long thing that you need to get used to, because it demands a high level of energy, mental energy. So you may feel exhausted, especially in the last part, the case study, where you need full attention for 45 minutes. And we will try to organize another webinar soon in the coming weeks, just to explain a bit more on this part. We already did in Spanish, so for those of you who understand Spanish, go to our YouTube channel where you will have it on the time that you need to prepare these exams and how to do it. Last but not least, what else can YaSemosEuropeos do for you? Well, a little bit of talking about ourselves, but very fast. So we do organize free webinars and materials, as the one that you are attending today. Hope you like it and you found it useful. CBT trainings for all the competitions, and in English and in Spanish, in both. Training for the assessment center. I know this is the old-fashioned, but still they are valid, and some of you are having them. And of course, multiple choice questionnaire training. We will organize it. We're expecting to open the inscriptions next week for it. On that part. And of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media, Telegram channel, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, where we are keep informing you about all the new things, about all the useful information that we gather about European competitions and or trainings as well. Sometimes also we talk about ourselves. But in any case, the most important thing we can say today is that only your work matters. I mean, guys, now you need to dedicate time to your application and to the study. Because if you don't study, if you don't put some time on your application, you won't make it. As simple as that. Nobody can do it for you. So go for it. And now I think it's time for questions. Yes, I go for it. So let me see the chat, and we will also open micros. So okay, I see SV. What eligible candidate has FP, formación profesional, yes, in Spain, and more than years experience in transport sector could be eligible. He could if that FP is equivalent to a university degree. Check on the Annex 3 of the notice, where they describe the different degrees to see if that's equivalent. In principle, yes, you're supposed, but you need the equivalent to a university degree. I know that some FP can be assimilated to a university degree, so that could be the case. You're going to case study test and correct them individually to prepare the candidate. How do you organize this part of the competition? Thank you. Yeah, Sunny. Regarding the case study, we have trainings for the case study, but we correct all cases, the cases that we have designed in YaSemosEuropeos. The EPSO cases, we don't correct them as they are EPSO, they know the tricks, what they want, but what we do is we organize webinars, and in our training for the multiple choice for the case study will be included as well a specific session where we will analyze the whole booklet and the potential questions that we think could be asked in the exam. We did it for intellectual property, for economists, and for migration and crisis. I must say that I think there were no surprises. The questions were exactly what we were expecting, and we told our candidates. But then the point is that you have to practice. We also upload the EPSO web case in our system, so you can practice in a 45 minutes platform in a very similar environment to the one provided by EPSO. So because we facilitate that you can practice. iPhone the Angela. It's sufficient to submit a declaration to the owner, or do I have to ask my all employees to sign such a declaration? My contract does not mention task. Ideally, should be from the employer. Try to see if you have any other way of justifying, maybe the job announcement, or any other way that you can say that if it's a standard name for the job and there's a generic description somewhere, that could make it. Case study cannot be done in English. No, just probably I say something, or as I speak fast, sometimes it's a bit difficult to follow me. No, the thing is that the case study you can do it in English, so it's possible. It's the CBT, the computer-based test, the one that you cannot do it in English. If you don't pass the MCWV, I guess it's the MCQ, but they do pass the CBT and the case study, do they save the CBT? No, unfortunately, it's competition, it's independent. So that's why, for instance, you need to fill in the application form every time, and you need to repeat all the tests. So you cannot save the note or the results for another competition, only for yourself in the fact that, okay, I passed the CBT on this competition, meaning on the next one, I should be capable of passing it. I know it now. That's it. But from EPSO perspective, they don't do it. Are you going to do a specification on the field related test? Meaning field related tests on the multiple choice questionnaire? No, this is it for today. We will do the training, organize the training, we will open next week, but session for the field related tests, beyond that, no. We will see afterwards when the hiring process begins, once you're on the reserve list, we will see how we can help you on that part through trainings for the interviews, or how it goes, because even EPSO doesn't know what's coming after the competitions. Okay, Sandy, thank you, Sandy. If my job contract does not include my responsibilities or my job description, could I justify my relevant experience with the third-party certificates, clients, and customers in case of public organizations? Yeah, I think so, Jose. I think that could be a good way of proving what's your work experience. I will understand that you will also prepare some tests for the film MCQ. Your test will focus on transport, EU policies, or both? And everything that is related to transport. I mean, we expect that multiple choice, from our understanding we've seen on previous competitions, will be about transport from an European perspective. So all the information that is stuck in the European web pages, European Commission web pages about transport, is suitable to appear on your multiple choice. Also some pieces of regulation, general knowledge, not specific knowledge on the pieces of regulation, that could be a possibility. So all that we will try to cover. We will try to be quite comprehensive in all the areas that would be present in your multiple choice. Does EPSO publish how many applicants have applied to a concours? Yes, they do, but they do it after they close the inscription period, so don't expect to do it like when you see the counter like one more and one more and one more. No, something like that. They publish the close number, so they will do it eventually. Okay, more questions, more comments. How recent do you think the knowledge should be? There has been just some new rules adopted. They could be. It's a possibility that they're there. About the new rules, it's a general knowledge about the new rules. We don't expect that in the Article 5 of the rules that apply for aviation, the airplanes should have a yellow marking or a red marking. That's too much, too technical. But I mean, the later regulations about airplanes have been passed in this year, last year, the year before. Or what regulation of aviation has been passed last year? These kind of things that could be. Yes, Isabel, we will launch a bunch of questions for the MCQ. More than a bunch, we're expecting, as usual, minimum 350, but probably will be more because you know that we keep evolving the test. Once we publish them, we keep adding new questions if we see something is missing or could be improved. So minimum commitment is 350. Question that will be plus some resource materials and some documents that we come across that can be useful for all of you. Yes, related to transport, of course. Okay, more questions, more comments. I know everybody's speechless, so in siesta time. So meaning that's why it's silence. Yes, it's possible to succeed without full time. Yes, I'm certain that it's possible. We will have to take some hours, especially during the weekends when you have more free time. Is the moment. We always say that it's better quality than quantity. So, guys, if you really have a very tough week, use the weekends for study. Fine, but dedicate some quality time, no phones, no being tired, but just fully concentrated on it. In fact, what we propose when we, multiple choice strategy is a methodology rather than pure collection of questions. We do it in a way that it helps you to study and to detect the areas that you need to reinforce through study. That's how we do it. So, and that's what we will propose next week. Stay alert because you will have it. We will announce it on our social media, and also we will send you to all of you the link of this webinar, and also the link to the training in case you want to join. After that, we won't pester you anymore with any other email or communication. So we specify the application the task indicating the percent of time we have been carrying out of each task. Unless there are some tasks that are not clearly related to transport, I wouldn't do it. If all they are relevant, I will keep it, and more or less equally relevant, I would do it. Okay, Beatriz, the info you get from the MCQ, where did you get it from? From the same sources that we told you. We are quite open always. I mean, you will see that we never use hidden secret materials. Everything we use, it's gathered from the internet, from official sources. That's the first thing. But what we do is to apply this or strategy on how to ask these questions, the areas we cover, and the continuous checking. That's our added value. Of course, you can go to the sources and create your own test. So try to do it. It's also a useful exercise. Okay. Any other question? Any other comment? All fine, everyone? Maybe you mentioned, but when are you planning to launch the MCQ questions? Next week. We're still completing all the questionnaires and seeing the materials. So next week you will have it. Okay, everyone. So that's it for today. Stay alert. We will upload this webinar to YouTube. Maybe at the end of the week or no later than next Monday. You will have it on the web. And we stay in touch. Just follow on social media and you will keep updated on any novelty regarding this competition and any other. So thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.